Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Coming up.
I find Wembley totally uninspiring. I think it's a shame. I think that it doesn't necessarily lend itself to like a brilliant atmosphere.
Everything says it's controversial.
No, I don't.
Wembley shit, Rory Jennings.
It is though. Over Graham Potter. It's not, He's not. He's a Forest Green manager or a Brighton manager. You know where they've got fan bases that are vegan or whatever. Like he's not gonna chime with West Ham fans.
I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm standing next to Tom Cruise.
Oh, you live some life,
It's
don't
a mad
you?
life. It's a mad life. Wee Tom Cruise. He was in his Cuban heels. Hello and welcome to Whistleblowers. I'm Gordon Smart and I'm joined as ever by the one and only Mark Clattenburg, who is on Gladiators duty today backstage in what looks like some kind of hospital ward, but we'll ask him more about that in a second. And in a break from tradition, Ian Ladyman is away, but we have a wonderful replacement. As if Ladyman's predictions weren't bad enough, we found somebody who makes even worse predictions. It is the great Rory Jennings, who you'll be familiar with from opening his mouth and letting his stomach rumble on the radio and the internet. Rory, welcome aboard.
Yeah, this feels very intimidating. It's like the B-Tech Ian Ladyman.
Yeah.
So I'll do my best.
Rory, you've got to start by giving us an appraisal of Mark Clattenburg as a Chelsea fan. When were you most angry at Mark Clattenburg in your career as a Chelsea fan?
I mean, Mark was very unfortunate with regard to his reputation with regard to Chelsea fans.
Do you remember the Battle of the Bridge, for example? What a game that was.
Of course, yeah.
You know,
I mean, that was one of my favourites. That was unbelievable, wasn't it? That game.
Were you there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's honestly one of, you know, when you think about like the best things that's ever happened to me as a football fan. You go Lampard going round Jaskalainen at the Reebok in 2005. Obviously Didier Drogba in Munich. Then you go Eden Hazard stopping Tottenham winning the league. Like that's up there for me. And to be part of that must have been an incredible, Mark, because it went wild, didn't it?
Oh, it was. Everybody says now it was like a guilty pleasure. I think because of VAR now it would have stopped all this. And you know, it was one of them where even as a referee you get caught in the emotions. And I remember the week before the press, you know, the Chelsea players saying we're going to stop Tottenham winning the league, and you know, because Chelsea had a poor season that season, and you know, it was one of them where Chelsea wanted to, you know, get something over, even though they'd had such a bad season. And, you know, it was 2-0 at half time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I remember Diego Costa, for example, who was one of the most volatile players you could ever deal with, getting his eye gouged by Dembele and not reacting. And I'm thinking, this can't be right, you know. You know, the player of his quality, a bit of his reputation didn't react. But then to turn it round, and I remember I shouldn't have played the advantage when Eric Dyer sides somebody down. It should have been a second yellow, 100%. But I've tried to play an advantage because Chelsea had the chance to go and win it 3-2. And, you know, that emotions, that atmosphere, and, you know, to stop Tottenham winning it, I'll never forget that. You know, your hair's on your back, your neck moment.
And the quality of the goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The quality of that, of that Hazard goal was just simply sensational.
And the atmosphere afterwards, you knowing that you have stopped Tottenham winning the league, you know, at Stamford Bridge was like...
Is that better than winning it, Rory?
It's the second best thing to winning it. Yeah, like winning it is obviously incomparable. Stopping Tottenham winning it is the second best thing. Like, because that's what football's about, the rivalry. You know how I mentioned 2012 when we won the European Cup? I genuinely mean this. I was in the stadium celebrating Chelsea winning our first ever European Cup, London's first ever European Cup, and a little bit of me just thought about Tottenham, the fact that they were kicked out of the Champions League because we'd won it.
Yeah. It's the same for Hibs. You know, we still sing about Albert Kidd, who was a Dundee player who stopped Hearts winning the league in 1986.
Love it. The pettiness of football fans. I truly love it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. It reminds me, actually, we should have started the podcast by singing Hibs away.
So good, isn't it? Can't get it out of my head. Ever since I saw that clip.
I wake up thinking about that song.
Thousands and thousands of Hibs fans on a pre-season friendly. Just singing that for like 90 minutes. It was amazing.
My favourite one's there's a picture of like 8 lads on one of those mobility scooter things going through the airport in Norway. It's just all singing Hibs away. Right, Mark, you're familiar with being in the headlines. I've written a few myself, but Rory, in a new generation of media talent, seems to sort of make viral moments happen. The most recent one, Rory, I've got to mention is not wearing football strips as an adult. It tickled me, this, right? Yeah. Because I think there's a time to do it. Obviously, John Terry famously puts a football strip on when he's not meant to from time to time. But you stand by this one that grown men shouldn't be wearing football tops, because Clattenburg loves his Newcastle top on away trips.
It's gone crazy, the clip, like far beyond anything I could have ever predicted. But ultimately, it wasn't about should you ever wear them. If you want to wear one to the gym to play football in, I think it's fair enough. Equally, if you want to wear one to a football match, I don't care what you choose to do. I just wouldn't do it.
Right.
I wouldn't play dress up is the term that I used.
Dress up.
Play dress up and go to a football match. I think that they can look ridiculous, and I think that an away end can look far better if decked out in nice fashionable clothing rather than ill-fitting polyester kits.
I wanted to ask you if this goes back to your Chelsea heritage and Headhunters, the book, where it's like no colours, scarfers, all that kind of stuff. John King.
No, like that's not a culture that.
Are you a casual?
No. I appreciate that scene. Obviously, it's not a scene I've ever been involved in. But I think that the scene is quite an interesting one. Yeah. And ultimately, I would go to Chelsea, and I would know 100 people. Not one of them would be wearing a shirt. Yeah. And so the one person who would be in the shirt, it would actually be the telltale sign that they kind of weren't part of
the proper.
Yeah, like if Chelsea are playing away at Tottenham and you're meeting at Liverpool Street, nobody will be in a shirt. Like literally nobody. And I think that's reciprocal. I don't think Tottenham fans would do it. But I don't care what people wear. I don't understand why this has become such a binary.
Is it a north-south thing here? Because Mark Clattenburg, right, it's a birthright as a Geordie to either be topless at a game or have your colours on.
With a big beard belly, for sure. It is, I think, I agree with Rory at a point. I haven't got a problem. And, a lot of people in the Northeast, for example, wear Newcastle or Sunderland shirts. Mm-hmm. But what I can't understand is I like it when they're at football matches, you wear your strip, you come home, that's it. But when you see them at airports, they're travelling on aeroplanes to holidays, they're in Spain with their football shirts on. I'm like, I don't get it. I get it for the football matches, but I just can't get it when they're in airports and, wearing football shirts.
Is it different for your national team? Is it different for your club than your country? Because I love it with Scotland. I love a Scotland strip away.
Yeah, but would you wear it, for example, going on an aeroplane? Would you go on holiday with your Scotland strip on?
Yeah,
would you wear it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, with a Scotland strip. I don't wear the Hibs top as much.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I've got just about every Scotland strip since about 1977, I think.
Nice. I like that multicoloured one. Remember the multicoloured one?
Yeah, the fruit salad.
That was the best one. Yeah,
we call it the fruit salad strip. That one, it's a beauty.
Yeah, I've still got that one, but it doesn't fit us now.
It's a cracker. Well, I have one quick question before we move on. I was at Wembley for Oasis on Friday night. And it was a majestic scene for cigarettes and alcohol, watching a feeling Wembley bouncing, right? That was unbelievable for me. What an experience. But it did make me think about the greatest Wembley football matches. Frank Lampard was there as well, and I've seen him grace the turf a few times at Wembley. But I went to the first FA Cup final at the new Wembley when it opened, Man United, Chelsea.
I did that. Yeah, Drogba. In extra time.
And that was an incredible spectacle. Best performance you've seen at Wembley, Rory Jennings?
I find Wembley totally uninspiring. I think it's a shame. I think that it doesn't necessarily lend itself to like a brilliant atmosphere.
Everything he says is controversial.
No, I don't.
Wembley's shit, Rory Jennings.
It is though. I really think it is. I think it's a shame. It's like when the FA Cup finals were in Cardiff. I think it was so much
amazing.
better.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it was so much better. In terms of a performance though, I think Didier Drogba against Tottenham in terms of like a one-man performance. Like we beat them 5-1 that day. But Didier Drogba was just completely unplayable, like truly, truly brilliant. Lampard scored that day. He scored a free kick from about 45 yards or something ridiculous.
Absolutely brilliant.
But basically, I'd say Drogba at Wembley would be the iconic moment. Mate, how was Oasis? I need to hear more.
Oh, it was unbelievable. One of the best gigs, best I've ever seen them actually. I saw them in 1995 for the first time, and that was right up there. The atmosphere was so good. It was just brilliant. And I know it sounds ridiculous, I was standing next to Tom Cruise.
Were you?
Standing next to Tom Cruise.
Oh, you live some life,
It's a mad life, it's a mad life. And the best thing is, he didn't use Shazam once. He knew the words. Wow. It was a wee Tom Cruise. He was in his Cuban heels.
Really?
It was an amazing experience. Oasis were amazing. And I'm taking my son to Murrayfield to see them, and he's 15. So that was the nice thing, seeing dads with their boys and daughters. And it was a beautiful summer day, and it ended a beautiful summer's morning about 3 days later. I'm still recovering now. Right, boys. Brilliant. Predictions. Right, we're at that stage of the season now. We've been doing this for a few months now, Mark, but we've reached the point where predictions are a big part of the conversation in the football community. And Rory, you've got a bit of a history of predictions, which we'll come to in just a second, right? It's a tough gig, the predictions. So we're going to focus on the top six as we think the league will finish, right? So if we start from sixth in the Premier League and we'll work our way up. So, Mark, who will finish sixth in the Premier League this season, do you think?
Well, it was Aston Villa last season. I'm looking at, how the league could play out and who strengthened. You know, if you look at, for example, Manchester United and Spurs, they were down, you know, what was it? The third,
15,
fifth, sixth bottom, eighth bottom. Yeah. So they didn't really have a great season. I wouldn't say that they're going to be, you know, pushing into that top 6 just yet with, you know, they're going to need at least another 1 or 2 transfer windows. So if you look at what's coming through, and that was the mid-table, you look at Bournemouth, for example, they've been slightly weakened, but bought again. They'll be in, you know, mid-table mix. You've got, you know, your Fulhams who always do reasonably well.
Bournemouth were great last season, by the way, weren't they? Great.
Yeah. But they beat the top sides. The problem with Fulham is they're just not consistent, you know, around the bottom sides as well, and they're not consistent enough. But they'll be in around about the mid-table. But I can't see much change. You know, I look at the top 6 from last year, and Villa was there. I just feel maybe there could be a slight switch. Maybe Newcastle could be the 6th team, especially now that they're playing in the Champions League. We looked at 2-3 seasons ago when they played in the last Champions League. They really struggled in the league form, and that's because of the squad. Even though they've got a, you know, reasonably good team, I don't believe they've got a really good squad, and that leaves them a bit thin when it comes to trying to balance Champions League nights where the players are really, you know, at another high level where, you know, they're so looking forward to it, and then they're coming back to go and play Bournemouth away on a Saturday or a Sunday. Yeah. That's when it really matters. And I feel Newcastle really struggled a few years ago, and that's why I feel they'll dip again, and I feel that they'll finish around about the 6th position.
So you're going to go for Newcastle?
Yeah.
Newcastle in 6, Mark Clattenburg. Excellent. Right. Mr. Clickbait himself, Rory Jennings. Right, go, say something controversial, Rory.
Well, this is maybe the most controversial thing I've ever said. I think I agree with Mark Clattenburg.
Oh,
whoa! Stop the podcast now.
Yeah, no, I do. I think that Newcastle United will do very well to maintain any kind of European qualification. If you think about the euphoria that Mark touched on moments ago when they won that trophy, their first trophy for about 70 years. You look at the way that they won that final, the way that they won the semi-final, beating Arsenal home and away, the euphoria that came with ending the trophy drought, all feels a long time ago. This has been a terrible window. Missed out on Trafford, missed out on Gahey, missed out on Mbermo, missed out on Gyökeres, missed out on Liam Delap, potentially going to lose the jewel in the crown, Isak.
Yeah.
It's not been anything like we thought it was going to be. So if Newcastle do finish 6th, qualify for Europe again, maybe have a decent run in the Champions League, get out of the league stage of it, I think that would be a good season.
Interesting stuff. So you're sticking
6th
with
as well,
sticking with Newcastle. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to go just as a little bit of a change, and it is kind of dependent on one big thing, and it's Ollie Watkins. But if Villa keep Ollie Watkins, I think they finish 6th. They could be 5th for me, but I just there hasn't been a lot of business done there. They've had a really weird pre-season as well. I think that Walsall result was a bit of a shocker, wasn't it? And if I was a Villa fan, I'd have been panicking at that point. Yeah. But you can't read too much into pre-season games. But I think, well, you're not having it, Clattenburg. Villa.
No, I get what you say. I just don't. Friendlies are. I'm shaking my head at friendlies. I don't even get interested in friendlies.
Do you know the thing is, Unai Emery for me, I think he's such a brilliant manager, and for every month he has looking after a squad of players, I think he's going to get a tune out of them. And I know John McGinn a little bit, and he just said that the level of coaching and the attention to detail is so good. I think he's elevating players and getting more out of players. And again, if I was Ollie Watkins, would you want to go and play for Amorim at Man United?
No.
Or stay with Unai Emery? I think I'd probably stay. It wouldn't be much of a decision, actually.
No, I think you stay. I mean, unless Manchester United are making the deal more palatable, a longer contract, more money, I don't think it's necessarily an upwards move. Manchester United aren't in Europe.
Yeah. Sticking with Villa in 6, right. So let's do it the other way around this time. We're going to go for 5th. Who's finishing 5th, Rory Jennings?
Aston Villa.
Right, so you're going Villa 5th.
And this is primarily based upon what you just touched on there, like the brilliance of Unai Emery.
Yeah.
I think you could easily make a case for if you discount the truly world-class managers in the Premier League, I think in the next rung down, Unai Emery is the best manager in the league by a distance.
Yeah.
I think he's incomparable. He's incomparable to Guardiola, but he's also incomparable to Arteta and Maresca and whatever else. He's such a good manager, such a great track record. And with him at the helm, Aston Villa are totally capable of finishing in the Champions League spots.
Rory, can you just say something nice about John McGinn from my own personal predilection?
I've got a lot of time for John McGinn. I do. I think he's a really good player. I really do. So players like that, they're so important to have in your squad, in your team. Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree.
I don't know if you feel this, boys. It's just an observation when we were preparing for the show, is that how many toxic dressing rooms there seem to be. And actually, do you think there's a bit of a lack of leadership in some teams now? The traditional good old-fashioned leader and captain of a club. And
player power has gone mad.
Yeah.
It's player power has gone mad.
Individualism, isn't it? It doesn't seem like a team anymore. What do you reckon, Mark? Because you'll have seen this refereeing the games.
100%. I've been lucky. I've been finished, 7-8 years now. And I remember the Leicester side, all them years ago, that was so successful. It was built on a team. Every time I saw them, I remember I was refereeing a game at Chelsea, and it was the day when Hazard walked off the pitch and Mourinho went ballistic, and Chelsea had got beat 2-0, and Leicester were buoyant, and it was just before Christmas, and we went back to the hotel, and a few of the boys were staying in the same hotel, and they were all in the bar, they were all drinking together, and there was a big group of them, and I thought, you know what, you didn't really see that. There was a lot of individuals, a lot of, and I get when foreign players come in, they want to, they want to be friends with their, their counterparts, or their, the people who speak their same language. But with Leicester, there was that coming together, and you don't really see it anymore. You see a lot of individuals, and I know Eddie Howe, for example, he tries a lot with Newcastle, and people, criticize when he's taking photos in the dressing room. He's getting the players to go up to the crowd at the end of the game as a group, and I think if you can get that group mentality, and the players are fighting for each other. When you've got 11 players on the pitch and they're fighting for each other, you don't have to have complete superstars. I think that when they're all fighting in the same direction and they're all working hard for each other, they've all got set their own standards. Sometimes the coach, I remember Ranieri was the coach at Leicester, and the Leicester boys would come out at half time and say, let's not listen, let's just do our own thing. Let's work together as a team, So sometimes tactics could go out the window if the team are fighting in the same direction.
It's a real problem at Manchester United, hasn't it?
Massive.
Part of the downfall of the club has been a lacking of the character like Brian Robson, Steve Bruce, Roy Keane. The fact that Alejandro Garnacho can wear another club shirt and there isn't a senior player to make sure that's unacceptable. Jadon Sancho effectively pins a tweet to the top of his profile slating the Manchester United manager. Like, regardless of what you think of the Manchester United manager or who it is, you must respect the office of Manchester United manager.
Yeah.
And I think that there isn't somebody within the dressing room to stop that sort of behaviour.
Yeah. So, Mark, who's your fifth place team?
I'm going to go with Rory again. I think, we're looking at...
Great minds. Great minds.
Villa. Yeah, no, I think Villa, if they keep a hold of Watkins, and I think, do they really need to sell Watkins? No. I think they've got the PSR rules this season a lot in a better shape than they have in previous seasons. So, I think with Villa, with that coach, if you look back, Villa rocked Paris Saint-Germain in that second leg of the Champions League. I was lucky enough to be there, and Asensio had a big chance. They had one of the defenders had a free header. They had Paris Saint-Germain on the ropes, and to beat one of the best teams in Europe on that night, they had the chance. It would have been an incredible feat.
Gone for the same then, right? So Aston Villa in fifth for you as well, Mark Clattenburg. Now, I've gone for something a bit controversial here, right? Because I thought long and hard about Newcastle, like both of you, and I think they're on for a dip this season. I think missing out on all those signings you mentioned, Rory, is going to be a disaster for them, actually. I think if Isak leaves as well, I mean, those goals are so hard to replace at that level, and what are you really left with when you've missed out on all your signing targets? So I think Newcastle could have a bit of a dip next season, which is a shame because I'd love to see them prosper. But I'm basing this decision purely on the charisma and personality of a new manager in the Premier League next season. I think Thomas Frank will somehow, and this is controversial, and I realise that, I think what Spurs has been missing is a personality like Thomas Frank. I thought Ange Postecoglou would be the one to do it, and he won a trophy despite the fans and the misery between them last year. I think if Thomas Frank can galvanise the fans, they got on with their business this summer as well, didn't they? And I thought that was quite interesting. Crack on, make signings.
What are you thinking though? 17th to 5th?
Genuinely, yeah.
That would be some.
But I think Postecoglou chucked the league at Christmas to focus on winning. It deliberately thought, stay up, let's focus on that. And I know it's controversial.
Gordon, you made a good point about Newcastle losing Isak. But if you think Tottenham have never recovered losing Harry Kane, without Harry Kane's goals for Tottenham are really struggling for goals. Son isn't the same player as he was 2-3 years ago. I get what, a new manager could, the way Frank's tactical, the way set players, a lot of stuff will be going into to make Tottenham more structured. But can you see them going from 17th to 5th?
Yeah, I can. And I'll tell you why. Because I think Sonny was injured last season quite a lot, wasn't he? He had niggly injuries. Yeah. And he's one of those players that needs to have a sixth gear. He needs to be so fit, so quick. And I think apparently that's back. And I think he's still one of the best strikers in the league if he's fully fit. So
you mentioned me potentially being clickbait or wild, or you were slanderous towards my predictions. Yeah. That is wild.
It is wild.
It's wild.
It is wild.
Like they've missed out on Gibbs White. Like that was an amazing moment, by the way.
You must have enjoyed that.
That Marianakis press conference interview was one of the weirdest things. Looming large like Tony Soprano. But they've missed out on him. They've like, you mentioned him in Son, and look, if he gets back to full fitness and plays well for them, maybe. Mm-hmm. But there's also a chance that it's over for Son. There's also a chance that he won't be that player again. Yeah. And look, if Thomas Frank takes Tottenham from 17th to 5th, if you're correct, it's manager of the year.
And a European trophy.
And
I mean, it's amazing. I just think, keep an eye on, I think Thomas Frank, having been in his company a few times, he's such a brilliant professional and a great manager. I just have a funny feeling about them this year, and I wanted to have one rascal selection in the top 6 to annoy Rory as well. It's fun. And if I could have chosen one to wind them up, Spurs is the one.
Spurs, Tottenham in the top.
Just add a little bit on Tottenham. With Ange winning a trophy, Tottenham, everybody was upset. Everybody said that, Ange was the answer. They loved the football because under Mourinho it wasn't as good to watch. Then they got some good football, but the results weren't equal to that. Then they've won a trophy. If Frank doesn't win a trophy in the first season and finishes mid-table, is that a positive step forward for the club?
Yeah.
There's big pressures on Frank to make Tottenham successful. And if you're right, top 5 is the only way you could be successful, because if he doesn't win a trophy, which is harder to win now than ever.
The last time they won a trophy, do you remember Jonathan Woodgate saying this is the first of many and all that? They waited 18 years for the next one. So there's no guarantees. That's about as wild a prediction as we can hear.
I like it, yeah. But I think if you look again at all those teams around there that would be finishing 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, got a funny feeling that Spurs might just do something next season. Wait and see. Anyway.
Good clickbait, like your Greg's.
That's what we're here for, right? Like I really believe that. Right, okay, 4th position, Mark Clattenburg.
You've got to look at. I'm keeping the top 6 as it is. So if you look, you've got City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool. So I'm going to go. If I look at them 4, I'm going to go Chelsea. Unfortunately, Rory. I think Chelsea have had a good Club World Cup. They've got some good young players. They're buying and selling well. They've had to sell, of course, because of the PSR rules. But they haven't sold players that are going to damage the team. Like Felix out to Saudi Arabia is a good sale. And I'm sure that they've got a little bit of money coming maybe in with a couple of more sales out that they might be able to strengthen again. And I think with Palmer, for me, Cole Palmer is probably one of the best players in the Premier League at the moment and so influential. And if he dipped, didn't he? I think mid-season last year, if it's fair to say. And I think if he hadn't dipped, Chelsea would have been even higher and they wouldn't have had to worry the last few games to qualify into the Champions League. But Chelsea as a team can be frightening, and I think tactically they showed Paris Saint-Germain how to play. And I think if he gets it right and he gets, some stability in Chelsea, I think Chelsea will have a good season and a more stable season, and they'll challenge into that top 4. But I'm going to put them 4th, especially with the teams that I'm looking at slightly above.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Rory, what do you reckon then? 4th?
I think Man City 4th.
Yeah.
I think everybody's been so kind about Man City, and people seem to forget. They lost 11 out of 13 games last year.
Yeah.
Like it was a complete capitulation. At basically any other club, the manager is sacked in that situation. I'm not saying that Guardiola should have been sacked. Of course, he had more than enough credit in the bank. But even Guardiola, if Roman Abramovich was chairman, would have been sacked for that kind of form. Like, it was pitiful. It was relegation form. And they've lost Kevin De Bruyne. I don't think that they're going to be the same team. And Pep Guardiola's making what? This is his 4.0?
Yeah.
I don't know that it worked. We're talking about a lot of signings that have to come in, that have to play to the level and find the form that De Bruyne found. I'm just not convinced by Man City. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
But I've got them in 4th.
So Man City business, is there anybody there that excites you? Bettinelli?
No, not better. I think Shirky's a good signing. Yeah. I think Shirky's a good signing. Obviously, Marmoush, they're going to expect to see a lot from. He looked good. Yeah. Looked good in the games that he did play. But there's an awful lot that needs to go right for City. And that the team that was so good, the team that won the treble, gradually, they're talking about Jack Grealish potentially going to Napoli. They're talking, obviously, De Bruyne has already gone to Napoli.
Yeah.
This is a new look team.
It certainly is, yeah.
So I don't rate Diaz that highly. The conversations about Edison.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on at City. I think people are just putting them high in the league because of history.
Yeah.
And I understand that does teach us about what could happen in the future, but it doesn't guarantee it.
I found it amazing seeing Scott Carson's name there as well. He's gone now, isn't he?
I know.
After 400
Is he finally
years.
gone?
I think he left.
Career. My dream career, that.
That's the ultimate career, isn't it? What a gig.
Sit tight, win loads of medals and loads of money, do nothing.
He's got the ultimate trophy cabinet, massive bank balance.
Yeah.
Not a bad life. Right, so Rory Jennings, Manchester City, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, well, this, I've agreed with you on that. I think City, actually, the two clubs I think, and we'll come to my third place team, I just think they've taken a step up this summer. And I think, it could be a controversial view, but I think Pep might be under a bit of pressure this season.
You can't have another one like last year.
No.
It can't go the same way again because I think Sheikh Mansour and his team will finally have to ask a question. He'd never be sacked, but they might have to start. If they lose 11 out of 13 again, it will be. There'll be some very awkward conversations having to take place.
I think if you look at the progress of the top three that we'll probably come to in a second, I think City are probably stagnant by comparison when it comes to progress. I don't know if that's an analogy that's safe to use, but I just feel like they aren't making strides. They're not moving forward in the same direction as other clubs. So I'm going to agree with you actually and put City in fourth in mine. So just as a recap, Mark Clattenburg, Newcastle, Villa and Chelsea, 6th, 5th and 4th. Rory Jennings, Newcastle, Villa, Man City. And I've got Villa, controversially Spurs, and then Manchester City there. And we move to third now, right? So Mark Clattenburg, who do you think will finish third this season?
Now we'll talk about Man City again, I think. Just briefly, I think City last year were missing Rodri. And I know everybody's going to say, statistically, Rodri and the team, they don't really lose. And with Rodri out the team, they start losing. I think with a fit Rodri starting the season, and I think losing Edison isn't a big problem. I think, Trafford's coming in. Yeah. I think a young goalkeeper who's, future England goalkeeper, I think to lose Edison isn't a big problem. I think, defensively, Stones had a good season. I think, they're tweaking the fullbacks, but he's done that for years. Kyle Walker's now out. He's looking for, younger players. And with Rodri in the team and a fit Haaland and creating chances for Haaland, I think Haaland, for me, as a centre forward is up there with Isak in goal ratio. And if they get him firing, that's what I believe will get them into the top three. Yeah, Guardiola last season is, people were criticising his tactics and, but I think now the hunger could be back. City have, not had a great season. They've got this still lingering problem with the charges above their heads. And I think once that gets solved and they can move forward, I think they'll become another powerful. They spent a lot of money. Was it in the January transfer window? They spent a lot of money. And, Mamouche comes with a big reputation. He showed some, showed some great,
he's going to be special
skills and he's got big potential. And I think if we can get him firing and get him in the Guardiola way, De Bruyne, I get, De Bruyne 5 years ago. Kevin De Bruyne for me was one of the best players I was lucky to share a field with. His vision and his skill was incredible. But, Kevin De Bruyne in his last years wasn't as influential as he had been. So I don't believe Kevin De Bruyne has a big miss. I think what they've got to do is hopefully these young players that they're bringing in can hit the ground running. So I believe they'll just beat Chelsea.
Yeah. Okay, right, Rory, third. Who's third for you?
I was agonising over this, but I've gone Chelsea.
Yeah,
I've gone Chelsea primarily because Arsenal finally got their striker.
Yeah,
I was really deliberating over is there a world where we could push it? Could I see Chelsea challenging for the title? And we're just not quite there. Mm-hmm. I think we should be inspired by what happened in New York City.
Yeah,
winning silverware in New York City. I think it's relevant. Should be inspirational going forward into the new season. But I think we're just lacking in some really key areas. And sadly, I think that we're definitely now clear. This time last year, the likes of Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea were part of the same conversation. We have now moved away from them and closer towards the upper echelon, but we're not quite there yet. So Chelsea in third.
I agree with you as well. Chelsea are third for me. I think one of the biggest problems facing Chelsea is the size of that first team squad. I mean, how you keep 43, 44, 45 players happy?
Well, you don't. That's Maresca's way, isn't it? You don't. You make at least a quarter of them very unhappy, and you focus on your squad, which I don't think is a bad tactic.
Yeah.
But where we're lacking massively is there's just no experience in the squad. There's just no there's just
youth, isn't there?
You know back in the day you've seen loads of clubs make a really intelligent signing that has no sell-on value. When we signed Michael Ballack, for example, it was a great signing. When Manchester United bought in Ibrahimovic or bought in Henrik Larsson, it was a great signing.
They were great signings.
Great signings. Yeah. And we just don't do that. Like if we could sign a 36-year-old Thiago Silva now and getting a Donnarumma in goal, suddenly I'd talk about Chelsea winning the league. But those two signings are sadly not going to happen.
Fair play, right? So, yeah, I'm with you there. Chelsea in third for me as well. So, Rory second.
It can only be Arsenal.
Yeah,
it can only be Arsenal at the moment. There is a footnote here though, just to say this could change. You know, if Arsenal were to do something fairly aspirational and a needle mover signing, Eberechi Eze. If they do that, and it's sounding like that could happen, if Eberechi Eze ends up going into Arsenal, I think then we could look at Arsenal's potential title favourites. But up until that point, if that doesn't happen, I can only see Arsenal making it into second.
I had this conversation the other day about footballers you still would pay for a ticket to watch.
Yeah, he's jewelling the crown of that, absolutely. Yeah.
Just excitement every time the ball comes near him. Cole Palmer's the same,
He's like a 1970s throwback maverick player. Yeah,
he covers the grass.
He like glides, doesn't he? He doesn't really run. He's a beautiful footballer.
So, yeah, Rory Jennings has gone for Arsenal in second. Who's finishing second for you, Mark Clattenburg?
I agree with Rory. It'll all depend. We can talk about this in 2 weeks and change our minds. I think Gyökeres signing for Arsenal's genius. I think if he hits the ground running and scores goals, because that's what Arsenal have been missing, goals, a leader up front. And I think if Liverpool don't sign Isak, it could be a big, it'll be a competitive championship this year. I don't think Liverpool will get their own way. I think, there's still, the signings Liverpool have made, Diaz is out. Unfortunately, they've lost other players, unfortunately. They brought in one or two players who have got to prove themselves in the Premier League. Salah is getting older. He's lost a little bit of pace, in my opinion. He's not as quick. He's not good. Sorry?
New contract, doesn't he?
Yeah, new contract. But if you look, I watched Salah last year and he wasn't going past fullbacks like he used to, unless the fullbacks are getting younger. He's not, he's still a wonderful player, but he's not as influential as he was in previous seasons. I just feel if Arsenal make that one more key signing, I think they've got a big chance. And it's all depends
saying Liverpool second?
I'm going to say Arsenal, but only we can change our mind in 2 weeks. If Liverpool get Isak, it's only one winner. If they don't get Isak and Arsenal get one more signing, like Rory says, I really fancy Arsenal for the title. And that's, really clickbait probably, but I believe Arsenal have a big chance if Liverpool don't get that Isak signing.
See, I toyed about this for ages because I think Gyökeres is such an important signing as well, but I think there's just a little bit of a hoodoo around Arsenal with Arteta. I think he's going to spend the rest of his life frustrated that he never quite won.
That picture that the Liverpool fans had when he was a bridesmaid made him a bridesmaid. Haunts me, that picture.
Always a bridesmaid. Yeah. But I just have a funny feeling that he's going to get so close again this season. I think it'll be as close as it's ever been. But for some reason, I just can't.
If Eze goes?
I mean, it's a brilliant point.
Yeah.
It's interesting looking at the permutations here, isn't it? If Eze goes to Arsenal and Liverpool get Isak, I still think it would be Liverpool.
Yeah, and if only one of those things happens, if Isak goes and Eberechi Eze doesn't, then Liverpool win the league by 15 points.
Yeah. And I think it's as clear as that, actually.
Yeah,
it is as clear as that. So as things stand right now, I think Arsenal finish second. So I think we're all agreed then, aren't we, for 1 and 2, Liverpool and Arsenal. But go on, Rory, why will Liverpool win the league?
It's the fact that they were the best team in the league last year, and they've strengthened better than anyone else. I mean, it's what champions do, isn't it? They strengthen when strong.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they've done. Gerrard said something about fixing the roof when the sun's shining.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they've done. It's a really impressive window. Possibly the best ever.
Listen, I enjoyed watching Liverpool, honestly, and I thought, it was later on in the season, they got caught short a little bit. They were losing games back end of the season, which probably didn't really matter. I just find last season's championship, unless I watched it wrong, I thought a lot of the teams suffered around them. And I thought that made Liverpool slightly better than they were. You look at City, didn't potentially play well. Chelsea had an indifferent season. Newcastle challenged for a bit. Manchester United, Tottenham's weren't as strong. They weren't beating each other. Your Man United against Liverpool weren't taking points. I just feel Liverpool, they maintained some form where the rest of them dipped. I think this year, Arsenal are going to be stronger. This team's got stronger this year, and I think they'll challenge Liverpool a bit more.
Yeah. And I just think, you look at that, like you say, the transfer window, Rory, is outrageous, isn't it? 213 million. And Ekitike Carcass for Frimpong.
Do you know what they've done as well, which I think is so significant? And it's exactly what they should do, but they've kind of bullied. Like, I was away a couple of weeks ago, and I've tried to stay off social media, but I had a 24-hour period where I believed Hugo Ekitike was a Newcastle player because it was done. That's what I'd read. It was done. Yeah. I then didn't go on my phone because that was what I was trying to do while I was away. And suddenly, Liverpool have made a few phone calls, and they've taken him from under a major rival's nose.
If you add Isak to that,
statement signing that.
That's incredible stuff. But I mean, I'm going to go for an emotional reason for Liverpool, because I think if ever there was a club who would respond to the tragedy of Jota's death, it's Liverpool. And I think the motivation in the dressing room to honour him is the kind of thing that gives you just that extra little bit. The other thing I think from a march of time that is quite interesting is the Andy Robertson era ending as well. That feels like, because he's been such a heartbeat of that team, hasn't he? And I know it's a Scottish thing for me, but when you watch Liverpool, that marauding left back with a beautiful delivery, sort of losing the balance of him and Trent will be a strange change. He just needs help.
I think it's a big move from Liverpool that he hasn't gone to Atletico Madrid.
Yeah,
because he's still a better player than Tsimikas by far. It's just he needs some help. He can't play week in, week out. He can't cover the ground that he used to cover. Yeah. So bringing in Kirkes, who can pick up a lot of that slack, having Andy Robertson around the squad is so important, not only because of what he does on the pitch, but he's part of that standard that needs to be set. Earlier when Mark was talking about maybe the lack of personality in dressing rooms, that is Andy Robertson.
When you put new faces in with those price tags, you need some kind of glue in the dressing room, don't you, to sort of enforce those standards. And I think he is that guy, isn't he?
Sometimes you've got to have players in the dressing room that aren't going to play week in, week out, but the influential side of it, especially around the younger players as well. He's Liverpool practically through and through now, and you need these type of players, even though they're not going to be playing regular, just to keep the younger players, the new signings as well, to make them feel comfortable, because that's so important now in the dressing room.
Right. So just as a reminder then, Mark Clattenburg thinks Liverpool will be champions, Arsenal runners-up, Man City in third, followed by Chelsea, Villa, Newcastle. Rory Jennings is having Liverpool as champions, Arsenal's runner-up, Chelsea third, Man City, Villa and Newcastle. And I've gone the same, Liverpool, Arsenal, then Chelsea, then Man City, with a ridiculous suggestion for Spurs in fifth, just to make life interesting, because otherwise we'd have the same, and then Villa in sixth. Let us know what you think. That's important as well. We'd love to hear from you if you can. Whistleblowers@dailymail.com. What is your top six? Send it to us and your reasons for that, and we'll share it next week. Mark, if you had one out-of-the-box prediction for the forthcoming season, what would it be?
I believe Brentford are the team that could be risky of being relegated. I think they're going to be one of the teams that are going to suffer. I think losing such a great coach. I'm not saying Keith Andrews is a bad coach. I think he's a great guy when I refereed him as well. Nice guy. I think the pressure of losing so many key players that have now got problems in the dressing room with Wista, for example, not wanting to play. And that creates such problems. They're not buying players in. And I think now this could be the Brentford slip. I'm not saying they could be relegated, because we're talking about these bottom threes. Every year there seem to be the championship teams are going back down. But Brentford are the team that, we're talking about Wolves, for example. Brentford could be the team at risk of dropping down the league. And it'll be interesting to see how long Keith Andrews lasts.
Jordan Henderson's mum's going to murder you when you see her on the dog walk.
I know. He'll turn white again.
If there's not enough trouble in that front. Right, that's a good prediction though. I mean, Rory, again, this is the stuff that makes you famous on the internet.
Yeah, I've got a similar one. I'm talking relegation, but a different London club. I think West Ham United. Ham United. Yeah, I think Graham Potter. I don't rate him. I don't think he's a particularly good manager. I don't think he's a particularly inspirational manager in the dressing room. And I think that people have been far too glowing about his tactical ability. I don't get it with Potter, and I've witnessed it firsthand at Chelsea. However, even if you do rate him, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rate him for West Ham. Mm-hmm. Some very good managers over the years have proved that they're not good managers for certain clubs. Like, but Rafael Benitez, in theory, was a good manager, but he wasn't a good Chelsea manager. He certainly wasn't a good Everton manager.
No.
Roy Hodgson was a good manager, but he wasn't a good Liverpool manager.
Mm-hmm.
There are examples where managers just don't fit the
club.
And Potter, and you think about what Potter is, what he represents, who he is, and you think about West Ham fans. Think about the way that West Ham fans see the world.
Yeah.
Who do they love, West Ham fans? Like Bobby Moore and Paolo Di Canio. Graham Potter is not. He's not.
Even sounds like Brian Potter, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's just not that. Like he's a Forest Green manager or a Brighton manager. You know, where they've got fan bases that are vegan or whatever. Like he's not going to chime with West Ham fans. So I think that if they persevere with Potter, and you look at some of their transfer business,
interesting.
I could see West Ham being in big trouble next season.
That's interesting. And that's such a Chelsea prediction, isn't it?
Like it's happened as well. It's wishful thinking.
Dig out Spurs, dig out West Ham.
Yeah, I'd like
get yourself on. Anything you'd like to add about Millwall while you're here?
No, I'm not that dumb.
So here's my prediction, right? And I think this season could be, and I don't know what the record is, I should really have checked this before I came in, but I think there will be the most managerial casualties in the history of the Premier League before the January transfer window.
It's interesting.
And I think it's just the nature of the business that football has become and the ownership models that it's just, managers have never seemed more dispensable to me. And I just think it could become a bit of a bloodbath.
It's a good shout, because there's quite a lot of managers already on borrowed time.
There are.
There's a few, like if it goes wrong in the first 10 games, there's a few that are going to go.
But the part of this sort of out-of-the-box prediction is that I think there'll be big names under pressure this season.
Talking Amorim here, right?
I'm talking. I think Amorim could go before Christmas, and I tell you what, if City love Pep Guardiola, right? But if things don't start well for them, it's going to be a funny season for him. It's going to be a funny season for him. So I think there could be some big casualties, and also that sort of middle block of clubs in the Premier League is so ferociously competitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you start to slip towards those relegation places early on, you've got the crosshairs on your back. So I think this could be the season of the managerial bloodbath.
What could amplify that? What could make your prediction right will be if the likes of, say, Leeds, Sunderland, Burnley, if they start picking up points, if they start doing well, and maybe two of them are looking like they're going to survive, it means that two other clubs are going to be sucked into it, and that's when people get very panicky.
Yeah, and I actually think clubs like Fulham look quite strong. I think Palace might do all right this season. I think Everton are in stronger hands, new stadium. So again, suddenly the fight at the bottom, Man United, we've not even mentioned them yet, right?
Yeah,
Amorim is.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think first 10 games are crucial.
Yeah,
like you say, because normally your promoted sides always start well. You know, because it's the excitement of being in the Premier League. You know, the players are running around. It's only the reality after 10 games where you start thinking, oh, it's another match, and you start losing 2-3 games off the bounce. You start going on that run. So I think the first 10 games are crucial, and let's see, because I think it's a great prediction, that going.
So let us know what you think your out-of-the-box predictions are. Whistleblowers@dailymail.com. And remember our social accounts as well. On X, @BlowersPod. TikTok, it's Whistleblowers Podcast. And Instagram, @WhistleBlowersPod. And that's it for this latest episode of Whistleblowers. We're back on Tuesday for the next instalment. Remember, please get in touch with us on all of those details and send us your out-of-the-box predictions. That leaves us one. Rory, thanks for coming on this episode.
It's been an honour.
Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Man.
Thank you for having me.
You ticked all the Chelsea boxes we were expecting there. And Mark, that leaves one thing for you to do from behind the scenes at Gladiators. Blow the full. Oh no, he's got it. Blow the full-time whistle.
Got me Gladiators ref whistle. 3,
Go for it.
2, 1.
If you want to watch more episodes of Whistleblowers, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll keep you up to date all the way through the summer with everything that's happening in the world of football.